Actually, of John Prescott, who has died at the age of 86. His family said he died peacefully on Wednesday to the sound of jazz music at his care home, and sadly he had been battling with Alzheimer's. Tony Blair says he's devastated, telling the BBC there was no one quite like him in British politics, a sentiment which has been echoed by many politicians. And joining me now is Lord William Hague, former Conservative Party leader and former Foreign Secretary. Good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon.
Your thoughts, please, of Lord Prescott. Look, whether you liked him or loathed him, he had that uncanny ability, I think, to connect with the British public.
No, he definitely did. I mean, on one occasion, of course, he connected all too physically with a punch. But he certainly connected with people and really helped to hold that Labour government together, though it was a very frustratingly successful government in terms of winning elections and staying in power. Quite a big contrast to the current government that you've just been describing. And he was always a reassurance to people that Tony Blair really was still Labour, you know, that he wasn't Tory. But I had many, many exchanges with him in private and in public. We were always poking fun at each other, but we had a good relationship. He was one of those tribal politicians who liked to know people in the other tribe. You know, you could have a nice chat with him. You could have a joke with him. We were both Rotherham. He always used to say to me, we Rotherham lads have to stick together. I came from Rotherham, and he spent 5 years of his childhood in Rotherham. So actually we had more in common than people might have assumed.
Do you think that we've lost the calibre of politician like that? I'm just deeply concerned. Obviously, I'm involved in politics. I'm just deeply concerned that we have people who do PPE at major universities, go into politics, have no experience of the real world. Whatever you say about him, he did understand how people lived in this country.
Yeah, he did, and thank you. I did PPE at a major university.
I know you did. Sorry, that wasn't quite the dig. It came out as.
You must be talking about me. No, I know what you mean, though.
Yeah.
You need people with really diverse practical experience of life, and he had what we would have thought of in decades back as a proper working class background. That is quite lacking often in Parliament now. So, yeah, I think this is a valid concern. There are still some very talented people, though, who come into politics. And I think he should be a reminder to everybody that you can succeed as an authentic character. And you can be different from everybody else, which he was, actually, in the way he approached things. His humour was different. It was very direct on the floor of the House of Commons, even at a time when everybody was meant to be always getting the government line correct and everything. He didn't really worry about that so much. And he still became Deputy Prime Minister and a hugely influential figure. Yeah. And he was harder to deal with at question time than Tony Blair was. I had a lot of experience of both of them.
Why was that? Because Blair was sophisticated and he had great artistry when it came to his lexicon, for example. Prescott, I suppose, just told you what he thought.
Well, he did. He could really hit back with humour very well, verbally with humour. And also he had a deep loyalty among the Labour Party who would cheer him on. And when I came back into politics and was deputising for David Cameron against him, he was straight out with, the Tories have got through so many leaders that they've gone back to the first one now. And they've gone so green, they're recycling all their leaders. And of course, he, with that sort of sense of enjoying it all, everybody cheered him on. It didn't really matter then whether you caught him out on anything. His own side would cheer him on to success. So it was very difficult to deal with at question time. But we would have a laugh afterwards. And we talked a lot about Hull, but where he was an MP, because he was a big fan of the history of William Wilberforce, who abolished the slave trade. I wrote a book about him. And we would often just sit and talk about history. And it's good that in British politics you do have that, you can have a bit of friendship across the political divide.
Have we lost that, do you think?
No, I hope not. I mean, it's a very personal thing. Some politicians who are, as I say, very tribal, really stay within their tribe. But others do actually enjoy knowing other people. And I think that is still true, actually. And I think whatever we think of the last general election, afterwards everybody paid tribute to the other side as being decent people. And so I don't think we have lost that. I think MPs still make friendships across the House, and I would strongly encourage them to do so.
You mentioned earlier that Prescott was invaluable, actually, to Tony Blair, of course, helped to rewrite Clause 4, or at least sell that to the party membership. Is that what Starmer needs now? Does he need some sort of character, an individual who will unite the Labour Party? It seems to me that the Labour Party is becoming a far-left militant party.
Well, I suppose he will think he's got that in Angela Rayner, who, of course, holds the position as Deputy Prime Minister that John Prescott used to hold. I think that we'll see, of course, how that works out and whether that can be as enduring and successful as that Blair-Prescott partnership or the Thatcher-Willie Whitelaw partnership, if you think further back. Really successful leaders often do need a deputy who is this huge reassurance either to their party or to the country that they're not going to go completely off the off the reservation. Keir Starmer will think that Angela Rayner fulfills that role, but they will have to be rather more successful than they have been in the last few months in order to get to that stage of winning future elections and being in office for a long time.
Just in terms of charisma, if I may finally just ask you, do we have charismatic politicians? I'm thinking whether you like him or loathe him. Boris Johnson is a charismatic politician. I think there are some great characters. Jacob Rees-Mogg, for example, a great character. Anne Widdecombe, who I have the great pleasure of working with. I mean, she's a character.
Oh, yeah, I love Anne Whittaker. I used to work with her. When I was leader of the opposition, she was my shadow Home Secretary, and she was great, actually. So, yes, we do have character. I don't think we've lost that. I think it's, on the one hand, it is harder for people to come into politics. There is a more 24-hour-a-day pressure in the modern media age on politicians than there used to be. So that is harder. Some of the world's problems are bigger and more intractable. That makes it harder to be a politician. But it is still possible to be a character. You just gave some examples of people in politics recently who are authentic characters, whether we like them or not. And so it is possible to be that. I think there will still be some future John Prescott's, I hope, and we'll be much the poorer if there aren't.
Well, so good to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed. Lord William Hague, their former Conservative Party leader and former Foreign Secretary, in his reminiscences of John Prescott, who has very sadly died at the age of 86.